Welcome to Hope for Your Pelvic Floor, the podcast that transforms how you move, feel, and live. And I'm Claire Sparrow, Pilates teacher, educator, and best-selling author. I'm passionate about helping you reclaim your pelvic health and your power. And this is your space for optimism, possibility, and practical steps to move from helpless to hopeful. Join me as we bust myths, share expert insights, and explore real solutions for a body that supports you for life. You're not meant to settle, you're meant to thrive. Let's get started. So, in today's episode, well, I've entitled it Drink More, Pee Less, the truth about fluids and your pelvic floor. Because after my to wee or not to wee episode, I have heard so many comments from you. You've DM'd me, you've spoken to me at the studio at Chapel Allerton Pilates, and it's really opened not necessarily a can of worms because I think that sounds negative, but it's open communication, and that leaves me just buzzing and excited because that's what this is about. It's about opening up communication so that all of us women can talk to each other about everything to do with what to expect from our pelvic floor. And just in that one episode, it really has created a conversation. It started a conversation, and a few things came up from that that definitely warranted another episode talking about, and I think probably many more even after this, but talking about we having, this idea of restricting yourself in terms of how much fluid you drink and when you drink it. It's huge. I mean, this is what's blown my mind over the past few weeks is how many women have, you've come and spoke to me and told me how what your fluid intake habits are. And it's everything from making sure that you're not drinking in the afternoon and evening so that you can sleep through the night, not drinking before a long walk, or taking a water bottle full but then not drinking it while you're on a walk. It's everything from, on train journeys, not drinking anything. I mean, all of these things are just, I really get it. This is the survival mode that we're all in. And alongside the to we or not to we question, this idea of restricting or putting a timeline on your fluid intake is something that actually is negatively affecting your pelvic floor function, your bladder function, and your ability to heal. So, in this episode, I really want to go a little bit into the science of why we really need to drink more, and it won't necessarily make you pee more, and just nailing down why it's so important so that you have a reason that's really clear why you need to drink more water. And then, as always, I'm going to give you some tips to help you to integrate water intake into your life and give you some just really simple tasks, takeaway tips to work on. So, first of all, I really want to go into tiny bit of science. And I only bring in the kind of background science of things when I think that I can make it accessible to you. I can help you relate to it in some way with one of my analogies. And because I want you to truly understand the irony almost of not drinking water, because it really is giving the opposite effect. And it's so hard to get your head around it. It's like the issue with Kegels being bad for you. We think we are doing the right thing, and actually it's having a negative effect. And if you haven't listened to that episode, please go after this one and listen to Danger, Why Kegels Are Bad for You. Anyway, So in this episode, we're not talking about Kegels, we're talking about fluid and the importance of actually drinking more fluid. First of all, I want to just kind of define what I mean by fluid, because not all fluids are the same. I've got my mug of water here. I did have a coffee this morning, and that fluid is not the same. It's not interacting with my body in the same way as this warm water is. So it's not that it's negative fluid intake, but it reminds me of, when I was a student, I did enjoy the occasional night out. And to ensure that I could get up and still get into the Pilates studio or the dance studio the next day, I made sure for every alcoholic beverage I drank, I also drank a large glass of water. And that habit has actually stayed with me. Not that I do student drinking or anything like that, but when I drink a coffee, I will have water to counteract that caffeine, because we understand, we know we're going to go to the loo more from that coffee. We know that it's dehydrating. We know that it's gorgeous and we love it, and it's okay to drink coffee. It's balancing that out with other fluids that are better, and really we're talking about water. So not all fluids are going to be absorbed into your body in the same way, and I think that kind of coffee caffeine comparison is a really easy way for us to understand that. So why then is water so good? And I want to talk about it mainly in relation to how your body converts that water inside itself. It's called the fascia in your body. And water is like, it's not just water, it's fascia fuel, the energy, the fuel that helps the fascia to behave the way that it's meant to behave. And fascia is the stringy fluid stretchiness of all of us. It's what connects, penetrates, and communicates throughout our whole body. It's what gives us form. And what's giving it the form is how it has converted the water that you've drunk every day into this special bound fluid. So, I mean, if we were just, we're highly fluid, so we understand we're highly fluid, but if we were just water, like the water in my mug, we'd just be a puddle on the floor, which is no good. So the body does this amazing clever thing, and it converts the water that you drink into this stringy, stretchy, formed water, this bound, elastic water. If you ever have an aloe vera plant and you cut one of the aloe vera plant leaves, we use it for healing, if you have a graze or something, and you might use that to help. But when you cut it, you will see that it forms this stringy, gloopy stuff. It's a lot like, I used to always make this for the boys, goop. When you mix corn flour and water, and if you add a little bit of oil in that as well, it will be really stringy and very much like our fascia. Even something like very hot melty mozzarella cheese, where it's all stringy and separating into all those different strands. This is that kind of give and take, the elastic, the structure, and the mobility that we need in our body, especially in your pelvic floor. It really, really, really needs that. It really needs to have the water to convert into that bound water, because it's that bound fluid substance that is helping our pelvic floor to heal. It is helping our pelvic floor to function normally, to be elastic, to stretch when it needs to, and to contract when it needs to for the coughs, sneezes, jumps, and runs. And the only way that it can do that is twofold. Firstly, is if you drink some water. Secondly, is if you move your body. And I talk about it all the time. I talked about it in the last episode about getting moving in your workstation, making sure that you're getting the body to move like a sponge so it can draw in the fluid that it has you have taken in, and it is able to then create into the bound fluid. But if you don't move, it's not drawing it in. It's I often think of the image of, and this is going to tell you a lot about me. I love plants. I really enjoy plants. I think I grew up, both my parents are botanists. I grew up in the greenhouse, in the polytunnel, in the potting shed, all sorts of fun things growing. And I think that naturally I've got green fingers, except that the house plants sometimes get a little forgotten about. And the house plants sometimes, you'll have all seen this, I'm sure, get so dry that the soil contracts in away from the edges of the pot, and you get this little gap, this rim, this space between the soil, between your plant and the edge, the rim of the pot. And it takes so much more work for that plant to draw in the water that you then panic give it than it would if you drip fed water to it regularly and consistently. That plant needs to be taken out of its pot and sat in water for a long time to draw in and absorb that water. And then it's about maintenance. The same is true in your body, because and I see it so often, you can tell in people's skin and the way that they're moving that they are chronically dehydrated. And if you're chronically dehydrated like that plant, that house plant, it really does take a lot more effort to rehydrate. So drinking a pint of water today is not going to immediately solve your pelvic floor issues. It's going to be over time, that little and often consistently drinking water and moving, doing your Pilates, doing the whole body pelvic health membership, checking out YouTube classes, all of these things that, it's one of the principles, one of the key concepts of whole body pelvic health. The method is doing movement before you start trying to strengthen your pelvic floor, doing something to hydrate it, to get it to be fluid and mobile again so that it can then heal itself and move through those more coordinated strengthening exercises. So honestly, it's so important, so important. And I'm going to talk a little bit more, but I am going to give you some really tangible ways that you can bring more fluid into your body and how you can get into a better habit of drinking water. So if you have scar tissue, if you sit for a long period of time, if you are doing just like a repetitive activity where you're always doing things in a certain way, then you might find even that is creating restriction and stiffness and immobility in your fascia, and it needs more hydration too. So it's not just that, because you might be moving regularly and you might not be moving regularly. Everybody still needs to have more fluid. That's basically what I'm trying to say around that. I guess one of the things that is really important is to just differentiate a little bit between bladder and pelvic floor before we continue into what you can specifically do. I think sometimes there is some confusion. And one of the things that happens with the bladder is that we inaccurately train it. So because you are giving yourself a fluid curfew, let's say, so you might not drink any fluids after 5 o'clock in the hope that that's going to help you to go through the night. But what happens is you're training your bladder that way with the assumption that it can't go through the night, rather than giving it an opportunity to go through the night by training it to control it and to expand and to adapt to more fluid. And that ironically, that reduces the capacity, the volume capacity of your bladder. And that's not just at night. So you're reducing that capacity in the day. So then you go for a long walk and you go, gosh, I can't go very long without going for a wee. And it's because you've been training your bladder to a different volume. I've shared, I'm sure, before that I had an issue with a catheter when I had abdominal surgery, and I said, I can feel my bladder is filling. I can see it. It's getting really big. I can feel that it's stretching, and I knew that it wasn't right. And they were, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. There was a kink in the freaking hose, and it was that kink that was stopping the urine from passing into the bag. So even although they were seeing that it wasn't full, I was full. I felt I was full. I had that interoception, that ability to feel my bladder on the inside getting too full. So it had distended, which is also not ideal. And I had to then train it to have more contraction inwards and not just that big fullness. The same is true for you in the other direction, that you need to gently help your bladder to stretch out and lengthen and have an increased volume, increased capacity, so that it can go not just through the night, but through the day. This is so important. And I know it's like, oh, it's so opposite to how you're thinking and how you're living your life, because we are, honestly, all of us, we're so, if you're listening to this, there is some part of you that feels a little bit ruled by your bladder or your pelvic floor or both. And this is your opportunity to take back control, to take charge. And I know it feels so counterintuitive, but I promise you, little progressive steps will make the world of difference. So this is that idea of your bladder and the being able to feel your bladder capacity and train that. And then your pelvic floor is separate to that. Okay, so your pelvic floor muscles are spontaneous muscles to the needs of your entire body, not just the needs of your bladder. And they are designed to be very flexible. They're designed to at least unfurl 3 times their resting length, and they're also designed to furl back in. If your bladder is filling and getting the opportunity to increase its capacity, your abdominal muscles and your pelvic floor need to also respond to that. They also need to lengthen and give. I know the penny is slightly dropping here, because what do? Whenever you feel your bladder fill, you squeeze, you clench, you hold on. Oh my gosh, you need to give it more space. I know it sounds, again, totally counterintuitive. But when you think about it logically, you squeezing in your abdominal muscles and pulling up your pelvic floor is making the space smaller and creating more pressure, because you've got a pressurized system. Think about even inflating a balloon. It's pressing out, and you, with your abdominal muscles and your pelvic floor, are pressing back on it. That does not end well when you think logically about it. So we need them to work in this beautiful symbiotic relationship with one another, rather than at war with one another, rather than pressure meeting each other. So it's a wildly different way of thinking than I'm sure you would normally be thinking. Okay, so I think we're a little bit clear on that difference, bladder, pelvic floor, and relationship to one another, and the importance of that relationship. So we need our fluid, our water, so that we can fuel the fascia. because it's the fascia and that bound fluid that our body creates in the fascia that helps us to feel that interoception. My bladder is filling, my bladder is emptying, I'm hungry, I'm tired. All of those feelings come because we've hydrated, we've fueled the fascia. And then it's also really important because that bound fluid in the fascia is also a communication highway. It's not just you with it, it's throughout the systems in the body, being able to send messages throughout the body. And really importantly, think back to the idea of the aloe vera plant. If you cut the leaf of the aloe vera plant, you see the stringy substance, but also straight away what you see is a skin, a film comes over the open wound, the open end, because it's designed to heal in the same way as our fascia can heal. It's designed to heal, and it can only do that when it has enough of that fluid intake. It's a bit like a sponge, that dry sponge image. If you put the sponge, twist the sponge, put it in the water, let it go, it's going to absorb that water. So that's where we need to have the water in the first place, and then we need to be the sponge. We need to twist ourselves and untwist ourselves to bring that fluid in. That's the movement element. You need to move your body as much as you can. And that leads me nicely into my little recommendations, tips to help you to integrate the fluid and intake and also the movement that's going to assist your body in using the fluid that you take in. So here we are. Hopefully you're on board. You trust me. You understand the logic that drinking more is not necessarily going to make you wee more. We need to re-educate the bladder. We need to rehydrate the fascia, fuel the fascia. And the ways that I recommend, this is what works for me, and maybe you have some other suggestions, which I would love to hear, is I fill a flask, just a water bottle, flask kind of water bottle at night. And I fill it with hot or warm water. And that's how I then start my day, because I leave the flask by my bedside so it is ready for me. So I can rehydrate right from the beginning of the day. I can start my day with fluid. And like I am right now, I've got warm water. It makes a really big difference in your body's capacity, ability to absorb the water if the water is nearer its own temperature. If you drink ice cold water, it's going to be like a shock. It's going to make you tense. It's going to create alterations and responses and changes in your body that actually make it more difficult for your body to absorb it. So more of it will pass through you. And this might be a light bulb for some of you. If you're going for a wee more than you feel that you want to, you might feel that it's because you're drinking cold water and it's shocking the body, so the body can't absorb enough of it. So drinking like room temperature water, body temperature water is going to be ideal. And that's why I use my flask to keep my water warm overnight, and I drink it in the morning. My next tip is to drink before and after exercise, not during. So drink water before you're going to do your Pilates class. And don't forget, if you're not going to a regular Pilates class, you can join some free classes with me at any time. You can do it on YouTube. You can do a free trial of the Whole Body Pelvic Health membership. There's lots and lots of opportunities for you to join me. So drinking water before, doing the movement, the exercises, and then drink again afterwards. This is where we get away from the dry plant in the plant pot, and we're really giving your body what it needs to absorb the water. In the beginning, if you're like, oh my gosh, I think I'm that person she's talking about that's chronically hydrated, you may want to start off with a hydration sachet, something in your water that's going to boost your body's capacity to absorb the water. I use something called Glossy, which has got lovely supplements like vitamin C and things in it as well as the hydration. You can look up, there's some great ways of just adding a couple of little ingredients into your water to make it hydrate you better and more easily. But just at the beginning, you might find you need a little bit of something to help you. And the main takeaway is to just get in the habit of drinking more. One of the things that I did in the beginning was really just having a nice water bottle. It actually does help. And I know a lot of the teachers that I work with, a lot of people have big cups, and that's really something to carry around and reminds you to drink water. Whatever you need to do to get into a better habit and a consistent habit of drinking water, do it. Get the fancy water bottle, invest in yourself, set reminders on your phone before your Pilates class so that you drink before and after. Whatever you need to do, and drink it room temperature. Really, really, that's going to make a huge difference to a lot of you just to drink at room temperature. Remember, the fluid is fuel for your fascia. You need that. Your fascia needs that. It needs that to heal and to help your pelvic floor to function the way that you want it to. So no more curfews, no more fluid restrictions. You're just going to drink your water. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I've enjoyed sharing it. And it really is so fueled by your feedback and your comments. So please keep them coming. Please share, comment, tell friends to come and listen if you think there's value in it for them as well, because this is the game here. We're trying to reach as many women as possible so that as many women as possible can have this information, can learn this new logic, this logical approach to their pelvic health for life. So I really, really appreciate that. And let me know, is there any other topics, any takeaways that you want to share, any tips that you think other people would benefit from learning? And you can let me know. Amazing to speak to you all today. I really look forward to speaking to you next week, and I'll see you then. Bye, everyone.